What's up YouTube, Amy's Bro here. For this video I thought we would have a little fun. So there was a question that was asked by Lone Boy Post 1975 to Rich of ReviewTechUSA. The question was, when do you think gaming was in its prime? And I watched Rich's video, and when I heard his answer, I won't say I was angry, because I wasn't, because he was answering as honestly as he could. But I do think that if you took this question, and instead of just asking it to him, you asked it to everybody, you would get a different answer from every person possible. There's a reason for that. When people think gaming was in its prime, could be completely subjective as to when they feel it was its most popular. Because here's what happens. People that game when they're a child may not when they're an adult. Or people that never gamed when they were a child may do it more when they're an adult. You know, if you're an adult now and you grew up playing games and you don't play as much, you may think it was whenever you were a kid, the 1970s, the 1980s, the 1990s. If you didn't play them as a kid, but you started playing now, you may think it's more recent, which is fine. But I've always thought sometimes that people need to appreciate where we came from to get to the point that we're at now. Okay? So if somebody asks me, Josh, what do you think was the period where gaming was legitimately at its prime? It's a pretty extensive period, and then it just stops for a minute. Here, let me explain. From the Nintendo to the PS2, and then it just stopped for a bit. And I'll explain why. Back when the Nintendo came out, the cartridges were 8-bit, right? Okay. The people who programmed the games, designed the games, created the stories, if there was one to the game, had to learn to be more creative with what they had because of the limited space. So what happens is, the reason why some games blew people's minds is because you're sitting there, the cartridges, I don't know all the technical aspects of how you know all the RAM in the cartridge, but you look at the cartridge and you look at what they crammed in there, and graphically when the system, the Nintendo first started, the games may not have been visually appealing, but as we got further along with the generation, further along with the hardware, and people started to learn it, I know it's an expression a lot of people are sick of hearing, but it's true, we got some amazing stuff. To this day, if I watch a playthrough of, say, a Steinix, and I watched the ending of that game, and I beat that game when I was a kid, but mind you, when I beat it, I didn't beat it straight up, I beat it with cheat codes. When I beat that game, at first I'll admit when I watched the story, because you're a kid, the story doesn't really resonate with you. Now when you look back on the game and you watch the story, you legitimately start tearing up because of the way the game ended. And if you don't know how that game ended, I'm not going to spoil it. You gotta go play it. Because motherfucker, if you're not playing that, if you're not crying by the end of, or needing a Kleenex or something, to wipe away the tears streaking down your face after you see that ending? Whew! I want to know who ripped your heart out. That's the best way I can put it for you. So, the designers had to learn the hardware, and they had to learn how to be creative story-wise and gameplay-wise. And what people don't realize is, as simple as some of those games were, they were also some of the more complex games. What I mean is, yes, there were games where it was simply run and shoot and just run, shoot, and blow stuff up. That's the obvious stuff. There were also the games where you were running and shooting, but you also had to figure out, okay, what weapon could I use to kill this person quicker? What path could I take that would be shorter to get from point A to point B? And I think nowadays, because of how pretty games look, we take it for granted. Because you see, graphics don't make a game. I know a lot of people hate me when I say that, but they don't. The reality of it is, when you look at gaming from back then, it was simple. You had maybe 2 or 3 buttons, maybe more, depending on if you were playing on a Super Nintendo or whatever. And you're sitting there and you're playing the games and you're going, oh, this is fun. You didn't care about if a game had multiplayer. Multiplayer for us back then was when we had our buddies come over to the house and we would play, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, or we might be taking turns playing like Smash TV on the Super Nintendo. We didn't worry about if we were playing, 32 other people on a Call of Duty or a Battlefield yet. Do you see what I'm saying? So, I guess a part of it also, when I was getting this prime, is when did we have the most fun playing with our buddies? And for me, it was always when my buddies came over to my house and we sat down and we played our games. We were playing the Maddens, we were playing, the Mortal Kombats, we were playing Street Fighter, we were playing whatever. We had fun. We would stay up until like 2, 3, 4 o'clock, and we would pull on there as playing the games. That was fun for us. You know what I'm saying? Some of you may have never been able to experience that because you play mostly online now. That's fine. I mean, if you have more fun playing, say, Call of Duty online against someone, cool. I'm happy for you. If some of you have more fun playing Battlefield online, great. If you have more fun playing Forza or Gran Turismo online or Need for Speed, I'm not hating on you. But the feeling of having like 12 of your buddies over and you just sit there and you'd be ragging on each other because somebody was getting their ass whooped by like that one guy who's one of your buddies, and he just was kicking everybody's ass. It was like, what was I watching? I was watching the a while back. I was trying to watch the Motor Stage Marathon from Corncheck when they were doing the 72 hours, and they had all their friends there that were specialized in different areas of Mega Man. So they sat there and they played all the games trying to beat the other people in a 72-hour race. You see? That's part of the thing that makes gaming fun, though. It made gaming fun, and was another factor in when games was at its prime, because that's what you did. You had everybody over. You sat there and you played the games, and you had fun, helping each other, ragging on each other, looking stuff up. I had a friend who would play. What was it? The Resident Evil or Dino Crisis games on the PS1, and he would play the game, and I would sit there with the book and literally read him verbatim, because we didn't have the internet back then, or GameFAQs. I was literally sitting there reading to him, here's what you have to do. And I read him verbatim, word for word. That was kind of fun, though, because it was me helping him understand what the puzzle was and what he had to do. That's the kind of thing that a lot of people take for granted, and that's kind of one of the things that also helped gaming when it was in its prime. Once you get to the period around the Xbox when Halo first came out. Okay, by the way, don't worry, I'm not being dismissive of the PC, because the PC, remember, PC, that's when you start having what? Duke Nukem, you had, let me think, Doom, you had Wolfenstein, you know? You had other games you played, hell, playing this, oh god, what were they? The Treasure Hunter games. Playing fucking Number Munchers was, classic. I remember playing that game when I had to go to summer school, for God's sakes. So, and graphically, the game's nothing to look at. It was just stupid. It was just stupid fun, though, and you learn stuff along the way. So, yeah, I mean, to me, again, but that was part of it. That was part of what made gaming fun, and in many respects, I think that's also what contributed to when it was in its prime. Do you see? Everything I'm mentioning is a lot of stuff that people would dismiss if they were honestly asked that question. You don't realize what you missed if you played in just the past 13 and say the past 12 years when online started to become prevalent. You don't realize it because you've never experienced the joy of having your friend over and sitting there and helping each other get through Super Mario 3 or Super Mario World or fucking Legend of Zelda. Or having that experience where, even if it was a single player game, you're sitting there and the unbridled joy of finally beating that final boss in an action RPG or an RPG in general, or some platformer, like the day when I finally beat Gaius on Earthbound, for God's sakes. That moment still resonates with me as a gamer. And I think that's... And see, here you go again. That's another thing that helps in... Because also, you also have to ask this question yourself. What period of gaming gave you the most memorable moments that you can sit there and recite them back to people? I remember when I did this in Super Mario Bros. 3. I remember when I did this in Earthbound. I remember when I did this in Chrono Trigger. I remember when I did this in Final Fantasy VII, we'll say. It's those things, coupled with everything else, the creativity of the games back then, the gameplay. And for anybody that wants to say, oh, the graphics back in 1816, dude, I can tell you right off the bat, the resolution, because my TV has a little strip on the top that tells you the resolution of something. The resolution on a Super Nintendo is 480i. if I didn't get a PS4, I would just invest a ton of money, build up my Super Famicom collection, and play games in 4AI all day. That's it. Done. Hell, I got a better one for you. To those of you that really want to have a kick in the balls, listen to this. There's emulators that actually play Nintendo games at 60 frames per second. Yeah. Now I know what you'll say. Well, they're simplistic. You're supposed to be able to be... Dude, I would love to see somebody clock them. Take something to clock a regular Nintendo and see what frames per second they actually run at. Just for the hell of it one day. But anywho, that's slightly off topic, but you get the idea. So, now that I've gone on that, to Lone Boy Post in 1975, to answer your question, when was gaming at its absolute prime? The best answer that I could ever give you is the period of gaming that gave you, personally, the absolute most joy as a video gamer. For me, you're going from the Nintendo to about the PS2. And the PS4 is looking pretty good right now. Because there was a lot more thought and a lot more ingenuity put in a lot of the earlier games. And at the time, the selection of games was a hell of a lot more diverse than anything we had gotten, I want to say, in the last generation. Are we looking at another potential crash? I hope not. I realistically hope not. I don't think we are. I think what's going to happen is gamers evolve most of the time with whatever new hardware comes out. If the next hardware is nothing but cloud-based gaming, that may cause a lot of people to think, but you'll still find that group of people that will play those also. In the end, what's going to happen is the people that played in a period that they got the most joy out of, they're going to tell you it's that period. I loved me some 1816-bit goodness. Because, first and foremost, I was a gamer. And I'm proud to say I was a gamer. I'm proud to say it now, too. Hope I answered your question, bud. You have a good night.